There were stars before the sky was turned black by smoke and war guns of alien armies who came to put flame to the land, searing scars of colonization, genocide, racism, and greed. The echoes still roar. Hollowed-eyed sockets of false reality still see those rockets, still stare into the gory red glare of scorched earth burnt bare, burned to a stump in corporate orange Kool-Aid trumped up version of white man's burden, claiming the throne of empire, gaming the land lust desire, marketing the electorate, commodifying the constituencies of white supremacy and modern-day manifest destiny, against whom they stood. They stood in resistance, they stood in rebellion, they stand in regeneration. They, who are we, indigenous peoples, understood. The stars will return in the sky. This is a road from Selma to Montgomery, and we're driving on this car.
And we don't show you.
We're talking about the Selma crossing of the bridge, and this is Betty.
This is Highway 80 West. Highway 80 East.
Yeah.
To Montgomery.
And Bruce Boynton's driving, but we're just talking about the death of Jimmie Jackson. Jimmie, what's his full name?
Jimmie Lee Jackson.
Jimmie Lee Jackson. And we were just hearing how it was told. It was, who was saying that, Bruce?
That was Dick Gregory.
Dick Gregory.
And Dick would have been living at my mother's house at the time that all of this occurred.
Yeah. Your mother being Amelia Boynton.
Right. And
the grandma of this whole movement here, back from 1930s.
And her home and her office.
And your dad.
Right. And she had made both her home and office available to Dr. King and all of the SNCC workers and all civil rights
back in Selma.
Yes, and Congressman and James Baldwin, the writer.
Yeah.
You name them, they all were centered there at the house.
Right.
And my father had died.
Your father's death was the first mass meeting when they commemorate him on the street in front of that Tabernacle Church, no?
That's right, which grew into a mass meetings and demanding of the right to vote.
That sparked the whole thing?
Sparked the whole thing. As a matter of fact, it was held on the same day.
What was your dad's name, Bruce?
S.W. Boynton.
S.W. Boynton.
Actually, it's Samuel William Boynton.
Samuel William Boynton.
But, well, let me say this real quick.
Sure.
My mother, my father, and I had two aunts, two of his sisters, all of whom were professional people. My father was county agent. My mother was home demonstration agent at the time. We're going over to Montgomery, and in Montgomery County, my Aunt Ann was the home demonstration agent for Montgomery County. And
that was under the Department of Agriculture?
That's right. And they were working with the black farmers, teaching them either new methods of farming, new methods of housekeeping and domestic measures that they could employ in the home and things of that sort. And the reason that all of them went by their initials, my Aunt Ann was A.M. Boynton, my Aunt Julia was J.M. Boynton, my father was S.W. Boynton, and my mother was A.P. Boynton. The reason for that was that back then disallowed whites of calling them by their first name.
I see. The initial thing.
Right. They use initials rather than be called Sam or Annie or
Right.
a million.
Right.
And that never arose with them.
I see.
But what happened was that there was an effort to have a march in Marion, Alabama, which is about 27 miles from Selma. And it was being sponsored or led by Jimmie Lee Jackson and others.
Yeah.
Down there. And
Where was Jimmie Lee from?
he was from Marion.
Okay.
This is where the shooting occurred by state troopers trying to break up the formation of a march that they had planned in Marion. And Jimmie Lee Jackson was killed in trying to protect his grandfather and his mother from the violence of state troopers. This one state trooper shot, and he didn't kill him.
But they shot him 5 times in the gut, no?
Right, but he lived about 4 or 5 days. And when he died, it was Reverend James Bevel, who was a minister, but also one of Dr. King's lieutenants. Now Bevel was not with SCLC at the time. Bevel was SNCC. But anyway,
All of them was here in Selma working at the time.
right. At my mother's house, he came up with the idea of taking Jimmie Lee Jackson's body
Yeah.
and marching from Selma to Montgomery with it and placing it on the desk of Governor Wallace.
I see that.
And cooler heads prevailed,
Uh-huh.
and the idea was developed and agreed upon to not take the body, but to march.
Yeah. And so that was actually the emotional outbreak from that killing of Jimmie Lee Jackson was what actually was motivating the core, the people that came to march across Selma Bridge, 65.
Right.
And Jimmie Lee Jackson, does he still have families around here?
Does he have family?
Does he still have family around here now these days?
He has family. I met one of his family.
In Marion,
And married.
not in Selma.
Not in Selma.
Okay. Well, we got to go back there and pay our respect to them sometime.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Bruce. We'll catch you in the next chapter in about 10 miles. About 10 miles down the road.
Okay, I'm available.
There we go. This is Arpaio on the road from Selma to Montgomery, 2012.